You take a puff, hold it for a second, and breathe out a soft white cloud that seems to vanish into thin air. It feels clean. It feels like almost nothing at all. But in that 1 second, you have coated the inside of your lungs with a fine layer of metals and chemicals that your body was never built to breathe. And this is not a warning built out of nothing. In a single year, this exact habit filled thousands of hospital beds and killed dozens of otherwise healthy young people, some of them teenagers, none of them expecting it. I'm going to show you exactly what did that to them before the end. But the frightening part is not the cloud you can see, it is what happens after it disappears. Deep in the smallest branches of your lungs, in a place air is supposed to be perfectly, invisibly clean. There is one ingredient at the center of the worst cases, and I will name it for you before we finish. First though, forget the single most comforting thing you have been told about it. Because that soft cloud is not what almost everyone thinks it is. Most people call it water vapor. A little steam, a bit of flavor, harmless as the mist of a hot shower. That single word, vapor, is doing an enormous amount of quiet damage. Vapor is what you get when water turns to gas. What comes out of a vape is not that at all. It is an aerosol, a dense cloud of tiny liquid droplets and solid particles hanging in the air. It only looks like harmless steam. What you are actually inhaling is a fine spray of chemistry, suspended so lightly that it drifts straight past every warning your body would normally give you. To understand why that matters, you have to look at what is in the little tank before it is ever heated. At its base, e-liquid is mostly two thick, syrupy liquids, propylene glycol and vegetable glycerin. On their own, in food, they are considered safe to swallow. But nobody ever studied what happens when you heat them on a metal coil and breathe them hundreds of times a day, for years. Swallowing something and inhaling it are two completely different things. Your gut is built to handle a world of chemistry. Your lungs are built to handle one thing – clean air. Then add the nicotine and the flavor, and here is the trap. That flavor is not a smell. It is more chemistry, more compounds, all designed to taste sweet and go down smooth. Now press the button. A tiny metal coil heats up to hundreds of degrees, and everything changes. Heat does not just turn that liquid into a cloud. It breaks the molecules apart and stitches them back together into brand new chemicals that were never in the tank to begin with. Some of those new arrivals are genuinely toxic. When the device runs hot, the glycerin and glycol can transform into formaldehyde, the same chemical used to preserve bodies, and acrolein, a harsh irritant once studied as a chemical weapon. You did not put those in. The heat made them, in the half second between the button and your throat. So the cloud leaving your mouth is not the liquid you bought. It is that liquid, plus everything the heat created, plus whatever the coil itself shed into the mist. And now all of it is heading somewhere it should never go. Here is what makes vape aerosol so dangerous, and it comes down to size. The particles in that cloud are ultrafine, many of them smaller than a single micron, far tinier than a grain of dust. And the smaller a particle is, the deeper into your lungs it can travel. Your airways branch like an upside-down tree, splitting again and again into smaller and smaller tubes. Larger particles get caught up high and coughed away. But these are small enough to slip past every filter, riding your breath all the way down to the very ends of the branches, to the alveoli. The alveoli are the whole point of your lungs. Hundreds of millions of them, delicate air sacs 1 cell thick, where oxygen crosses into your blood. This is the most protected, most fragile tissue in your entire respiratory system. Nothing solid is ever supposed to reach it. And that is exactly where these particles come to rest. Your lungs are not defenseless. Lining your airways are millions of microscopic hairs called cilia, sweeping in constant waves, pushing dust and germs and debris back up and out. And down in the air sacs, patrolling cells called macrophages swallow anything that gets through. Vaping attacks both. The chemicals in the aerosol can slow and paralyze those cilia, jamming the conveyor belt that keeps your lungs clean. And the macrophages, meanwhile, start swallowing the oily droplets and particles and choke on them. Studies have found the lung-cleaning cells of vapors swollen and clogged, too full of foreign material to do their real job. So your lungs cleaning crew is now disabled and overwhelmed at the same time. Debris that should be swept away instead settles in and stays. And a lung that cannot clean itself is a lung that quietly inflames, day after day, puff after puff. Now, one specific ingredient. For years, a chemical called diacetyl was used to give e-liquids warm, buttery, dessert-like flavors. It is completely safe to eat. Breathed in, over time, it does something the flavor industry already knew about and gave a nickname to. Workers in a factory that made microwave popcorn began developing a rare, permanent lung disease from inhaling that same buttery flavoring in the air. Doctors called it popcorn lung. Its real name is bronchiolitis obliterans, and it is exactly as serious as it sounds. The smallest airways in the lungs become inflamed and scarred, thickening and narrowing until air can barely squeeze through. And here's the part that should stop you. That scarring does not heal.
There is no medication that reverses it. The damage is permanent. When researchers tested dozens of flavored vape liquids, they found diacetyl in the majority of them, hiding inside the exact sweet flavors marketed to make vaping feel fun and harmless. But the flavors are not even the whole story. Some of the danger comes from the device itself. Every time that coil heats up, microscopic amounts of metal flake off into the aerosol. Testing of vapor has turned up nickel, chromium, lead, manganese, metals with no business inside your lungs at any level. You are not just inhaling a flavored cloud, you are inhaling a faint, steady dusting of heated metal, breath after breath, and it settles into the same delicate tissue as everything else. So far, every piece of this is the slow, quiet kind of damage. Inflammation, scarring, metal, all building over months and years. But in 2019, the world got a violent preview of how fast a vape can turn on a lung.
This is the number I promised you. That year, hospitals across the country suddenly filled with young, previously healthy people who could not breathe. Their lungs were failing. Some so badly, they needed machines to keep them alive. Many were teenagers. The illness got a name, EVALI, an acute lung injury tied directly to vaping. Before it was brought under control, it had put thousands of people in the hospital and killed dozens.
When investigators tested the fluid from deep inside those damaged lungs, one substance turned up again and again. In nearly every sample, vitamin E acetate, an oily additive that had been mixed into certain vaping products, mostly on the black market. It is harmless to swallow, even to rub on your skin. But inhaled as a hot aerosol, that oil coated the inside of the air sacs and set off a catastrophic reaction. Those people were not chronic smokers reaping decades of harm. They were mostly young, and it happened in weeks. It was a brutal demonstration of a simple truth. Your lungs have almost no defense against oil and chemistry delivered as a fine mist. And nobody knows the full list of what else, over a lifetime, might do something similar more slowly. But there is one more thing in that cloud designed not to hurt you, but to hold you. Modern vapes deliver nicotine in a smoother form called nicotine salts, which let you inhale far higher doses without the harsh burn that once made heavy smoking hard. It goes down easy, and that is the danger. A single small high-strength pot can carry roughly as much nicotine as an entire pack of cigarettes. People finish one in a day without ever coughing once. Nicotine is one of the most addictive substances we know, and it rewires the brain's reward system with startling speed. And it does the most damage to the youngest brains. The adolescent brain is still under construction, wiring itself well into the mid-20s. Flood it with nicotine during those years, and you can permanently reshape the circuits that control attention, mood, and self-control, while locking in an addiction that can outlast every attempt to quit. Which is the cruelest part of how vaping was sold.
Sweet flavors, soft clouds, no ash, no smell, no cough. Everything about it is engineered to feel like nothing is happening. And that feeling is the whole illusion. There is no smoke to sting your eyes, no stink on your clothes, no burning on your chest to tell you to stop. So the paralyzed cilia, the clogged cleaning cells, the scarring in the smallest airways, the metal settling into the tissue, all of it happens in total silence, with no signal loud enough to make you put it down. So here is the truth to actually walk away with. Vaping is not water vapor, and it is not harmless. It is a fine aerosol of chemicals, metals, and ultrafine particles delivered straight to the most fragile tissue you own, some of it causing damage that never heals. Now an honest note, because this channel does not deal in scare stories. For a lifelong smoker, switching completely to vaping is very likely less harmful than the cigarettes they replace. That is real. But less harmful than the single worst thing you could inhale is a very low bar, and it is not the same as safe. For someone who never smoked, and especially for anyone young, starting to vape means introducing all of this to a set of lungs that had no reason to face any of it. Your lungs give you one clean breath at a time, for a lifetime, and they never once ask for anything in return except the one thing they were built for – clean air, nothing else. If this changed how that soft little cloud looks to you, subscribe. This channel takes one everyday thing at a time and shows you the science that never made it onto the label. The video coming up next takes apart another ordinary habit quietly working against your body. Go watch that one now, while this is still fresh. And tell me honestly in the comments, did you believe it was just water vapor before this? That is the pinned question, and I really want to see the answers.